Hello, I'm Justin Perkins, and this is Talk Junkie. And today, it's going to be probably a short little cast, just a little something I had on my mind. And we are going to talk about a stretch of land from Springer Mountain, Georgia, to Mount Katahdin in Maine, the Appalachian Trail. 2,000 some miles. It varies year to year based on where the current trajectory of the trail is, based on trail maintenance and moving things. The actual trail distance changes every year. Not anything vast, I've heard that it's, there's been years where it's obviously, gained quite a bit or lost quite a bit, but, anywhere from a mile to 20 miles, it could change depending on different things. But I don't know why I'm drawn to something like the Appalachian Trail, but I'm very drawn to the Appalachian Trail. And that's not to say that I don't understand why anybody likes hiking or doesn't like that. Like, I love to hike. I like that. But, there's people who spend a decade hiking this thing in portions and sections when they get the opportunity to. But there's also people who go in and they're called through hikers. And they'll sit down and anywhere from 4.5 to 6.5 months walk the entirety of the trail from beginning to end. Now, the majority of people go south to north, northbound, starting at Springer Mountain and making their way to Mount Katahdin. And they start at a certain time and try to plan their trip for trail days and the different events and maybe different things that happen along the way that kind of coincide with through hikers coming through. And it's something that's grown quite a bit over the years, and today is probably more prevalent and more popular than it was obviously 30 years ago. And to me, that's something that's kind of like reassuring. That's something I kind of like. We always hear that people just don't get outside, and I think that to a large degree we have developed a fairly sedentary lifestyle, and we have developed a less active lifestyle. I think that's just a result of the world and how the world's going around us. That's not necessarily a good thing, and it's not necessarily a bad thing in an entirety either way. Like, it's good that people need to appreciate that the ability to have a sedentary lifestyle and the ability to waste your life sitting down and doing nothing is very much a first world problem. So if you have that issue, then you're very fortunate to be where you are geographically, to be able to even make that option, because that's not an option in a lot of places. I mean, brute manual labor is the only way to feed yourself still in a lot of places. So it's a testament to how first world countries have grown. It's just a detriment a lot of times to our health. But it's becoming more prevalent that people choose outdoor activity, and I think to separate themselves. I was very worried that there wasn't going to be a balance, that people were going to have an issue trying to balance technology and life. But I really think that people are trying to do so, and I think maybe it's not the majority, but it's almost the majority of people that are doing so. And it's easy. Look, my life is much more sedentary than it should be. Even though I like to hike, last year I got into the 5K thing. I run 2 5Ks. I'm not a great runner. I'm not a hard runner, but it makes it fun for me to get out and run some. I don't run near as much as I should. Jiu-jitsu had me really active for a couple years until schedule with work and things like that have taken it away. And that's something that I miss, and that's something that I would not be as sedentary as I am if the opportunity were there to do it more. And that opportunity looks like it's going to come back, and that'll allow me to get back in the gym and do something I enjoy. But with hiking, it seems to me like hiking is only growing in popularity. I think for people in my area, and a lot of times you're confined to the space in which you exist in, obviously, and being from Eastern Kentucky and growing, being born in the 80s and growing up late 80s, early 90s. I was born in 82. When I was younger, my friend Lance and I would camp all the time. Like, that's something we would do. When I was, very young, before my mom and dad got divorced, it was very, very common for my dad and I and my brother to play in the hills. Like, that was just something you did. You played in the hills. It was literally an activity. We would go and build quick little forts and play different things in the hills and just have fun and adventures. And that was very much a part of my life. And I enjoyed it. And as I got older, I just continued to kind of hang out in the hills quite often. Especially me and my friend Lance. Lance was very much about that as well. And you seemed freer, and you seemed less inhibited, and you could do things and maybe be a little more childish and goof around because there weren't as many people. But also, it felt like an adventure anytime you were in the hills. And I think people just seek adventure. I seek adventure. I think everybody does. And I felt more like I was living when I was in the hills than anything. And as I grew older, I would continue to be in the hills and walk the hills and stuff like that. And I never looked at it as hiking or anything. It's really, a lot of times we referred to it as, walking in the hills or exploring, especially exploring because it felt like, we were looking for something. There was, especially around 10, 11-year-old, there was always that desire that maybe, find some Indian artifacts or anything, But it was, being in the hills fueled the imagination and the passion for the adventure. The hills fueled that. I did not need a story or the belief that something was out there for me to find to fuel my passion to go into the hills. Me going into the hills fed my passion for adventure. So the hills were motivation enough to be out and be in them. And being that I was born in the mountains, being in the hills that's the easiest place to get to from where I was from, But also camping, was a large part of that. Long camping trips and frequent camping trips. They made it fun. They made it exciting to be in the hills. It especially when you were younger, it made you feel more mature and more independent. And like my stepdad's family had always had this thing, I think in June, my first stepdad, in June of going and camping at the lake for a week every summer, and we got to do that a couple times with them, and that was fun. I enjoyed that atmosphere because they took the whole family. They cooked meals. You had access to the water and stuff, and that, the lake, being on the lake. I kayak a lot now, and I'll just go out and just paddle around the lake instead of on rivers quite often. I'll just go out and paddle around. It just being on the water and being able to have that opportunity to just get out and be alone. I like it a lot of times in the fall and winter when there's nobody out there to get out and explore when the lake's down. So, that comes to me, I think that comes from that same sense of wanting to be out and be exploring. I think that's fueled by the same thing that fuels me to hike. I'm very, very engaged being outdoors, and I thought that was going away because it doesn't seem, even as a teenager, even when we were doing bad things and we get to, like, a lot of parties were on hills, on strip jobs, outdoors. So, I don't see that being as prevalent in my area any longer. And there's probably two causes for that. One, I'm not as obviously connected to the younger generation. Like, I don't know. My daughter's 21. I don't know her friends. I don't know I know who they are and stuff, but I don't know really what they do. And I only know that one set of friends, her friend, and they're obviously not into that. And my nephews are around that age, and they're not into that. My niece is not into that. My little brother's right around that age, and he doesn't seem to really be into that as much. My dad was never a camper. We still ride trail rides on horses occasionally. A couple summers ago, we done 2 20-mile rides, and that's all we've done. One of those rides took me through a portion of the Appalachian Trail in Virginia. We'll get back to that later. But it didn't. It seemed to me like the being outdoors and the camping and exploring aspect of life had been replaced by video game play, and I do really feel, especially in this area, maybe that it had been, and that I'm correct about that. But with social media the way it is, and YouTube and all these things, like, your reach is much further than it used to be, and you can see outside of your area a lot better. And granted, a lot of the people I am seeing are probably my age or around my age, around mid-30s. I'm still seeing a lot of younger people, mid-20s, that are getting out and hiking as well. I think the decline in my area is pretty simple and is really logical if you think about it. If you love New York style pizza because you never get it, or thin crust pizza because you never get it hardly, or you limit yourself on it, then your love for that may continue. But if I move you into an area that's nothing but thin crust pizza places, you're probably going to get tired of thin crust pizza and want something different. And I think that's the issue in my area with getting out, exploring, and being in the hills. These people don't realize what they've got is one thing, and they've been around it for so long, they take it for granted, and they also want something new. If you're not getting something new all the time, like, there's nothing wrong with wanting something new. That's good, really, to have that appetite for change and different things. So I don't fault that, but it can allow you to get burnt out on something if it's always available. And I think another issue is the local economy and the local government, really, and local people haven't ever made it an emphasis. They've never made hiking and exploring and being in the mountains an emphasis. They try to a certain degree, but there are limitations, not that are all their faults, but there's limitations of what they can do. Now, I live in a fairly close proximity to the Red River Gorge. It's not something I could drive to every day, but it is something I can get to, and that's awesome. And I have not honestly explored it as much as I want to, as much as I'd like to do this summer coming up. Breaks Interstate Park is very close to me. It's a little closer, I would say. It would have to be. I'm sorry, I'm working this out in my head mileage-wise, but at least it feels closer than the gorge. And Breaks is a wonderful place. And when my daughter was young, we hiked that quite extensively. We kept a map of what we hiked, and that's a really good place. So you have that. Then you have Kingdom Come State Park and stuff around that area, and stuff around Pine Mountain. So we have a lot of waterfall hikes and things like. So there's things to take advantage of. But a lot of these kids. Another thing is, people that I'm seeing engaging in these things, especially online, are coming from cities, coming from more urban areas, and so their interest is a little higher on it. Where some local kids, especially kids from Letcher County, have probably walked that trail to the falls, 100 times in their life. They can do it like it's nothing. It's not a challenge. It's not new to them. And no matter how beautiful something is, you may take that for granted from time to time. So it's not their fault. It's human nature in a lot of ways. But we definitely have the access to those things here. And Red River Gorge is really, over the years, got a lot of attention nationally for its beauty and its diversity and things of that nature. And we got the Shallow Trace Trail. We've got a lot of access to a lot of good hiking and things like that in this area. And I think it burns some people out, but it brings in a lot of outsiders. And seeing that, like going to the gorge in the summer and seeing the rock climbers camping at Miguel's Pizza, and seeing all the people out around Natural Bridge and things of that nature, you see that outdoor mentality is very much there. It's not a part of these people's lives, some of their lives anyway, like it was mine. They grew up in a different area where different things were a part of their life, and now this is being incorporated into it, especially I think with rock climbers, because I'm not a rock climber, but based on things I've seen in the gorge and different things I've seen, things like Don Juan, things like that, documentaries and stuff, this is not a region that probably has enough to produce a lot of rock climbers right off, unless they're in close proximity to the gorge or frequent the gorge. So, they're coming from a different environment, and then coming here, they're getting the rock climbing, but they're also getting the other aspects of the gorge, which are breathtaking. So that's to me, that's kind of the state of where people are with nature. I think that if you'd asked me 8 years ago, I would have said, in 8 years, I don't even know if people will go outside, and believe that. I really believe that. I was like, it's dying out. But a lot of times you see things based on, kind of preconceived notions and and fears that you hold. You kind of project those fears onto the reality of the situation and see more of the fear than the reality. But if you ask me now, I would say that people are becoming much more concerned about the environment and much more proactive about the environment, and people are doing that because they've become much more interested in being outside and being involved in nature. And I think that's a great thing, and it's something that gives me a lot of hope, and it's something that makes me really happy, because that's a passion of mine. So the Appalachian Trail, I don't know why, but from vlogs and videos and documentaries, and I can see that this trail has an attraction and an appeal and a value to people that other trails just don't. The Pacific Coast Trail, which looks like an amazing, breathtaking trail to me, and it's, to me, right there with the Appalachian Trail on a lot of levels, is getting to that point now. I think it's equal in a lot of ways as far as mass appeal with any other trail in the country. I just think that the Appalachian Trail, because of a lot of different variables, tradition and time alone, is more is a little more of a goal at this point for a lot of thru hikers. But there's tons of trails, the Continental Divide Trail, the Arizona Trail. Like, there's a lot of trails coming up and getting big, and they all look super appealing to me. And as much as I'm fascinated with this Pacific Coast Trail, now this PCT, it still isn't the Appalachian Trail to me. And I think the only way it could get there, or I could ever really focus on walk, even though it's so far away, say I had tons of money, I don't think I could ever put tons of focus on that trail until I had walked the Appalachian Trail. I think it requires my full attention first, because it has this draw to me, and I think it's that way for a lot of people. I have been on 2 sections of the Appalachian Trail. Never really got to hike any miles to amount to anything. In outside of Gatlinburg, Tennessee, up in the Smoky Mountains, going up to Clingman's Dome. As you come down from Clingman's Dome, and as you drive back off there's a section of the trail where the trail passes through there. I was very excited. My wife and I went on an anniversary trip, one of the few times we've ever went anywhere, without a child, by ourselves. And we go to Tennessee frequently, but I never get to go up there because my kids just aren't into it and never really were. And I'd been there as a child to Clingman's Dome, as a very young child. But to go up there and get to be on the Appalachian Trail, as corny as that sounds, that meant a lot to me, just to stand there with the sign and get to be on that trail. And if you look at the tab for this, the picture for this episode, whether it be YouTube or wherever, I don't think iTunes does it, but Spreaker and YouTube and everybody shows the picture for the episode. That's me. One of those pictures is me on that section of trail. The other place that I got to be on the trail was in right above Damascus, up at these cattle gates. We rode a 20-mile horse ride in Virginia, and when you first come up into this basically like old stockyard, this is where all the ponies are. You see a lot of stuff about the Appalachian Trail, and you see the YouTube videos or the documentaries. This is where everybody comes across the ponies. And this is in the Highlands, coming into the Highlands of Virginia. And that was the first time that, since I'd become really fascinated with the trail, that I'd ever been on a section of the trail. And actually, we tied our horses up and took a break at this cattle area, this old cattle staging area. And there's a lot of people camping there, a lot of people hiking the trail, camping there. And I believe Damascus is where they do trail days. And Damascus is just an awesome town. It's a cool town right down from there. And but I tied my horse up and I walked out the trail a little bit and took my picture with the sign, and it was such a just amazing feeling, being on that trail and being there, that it just, I'd had this interest in the trail up to that point, and this just skyrocketed that interest and fueled that interest. I'd obviously wanted to hike the trail. I didn't really get this way until probably 6-8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, that I got this passion, real deep passion. Like, I'd always thought it would have been cool to walk it. I didn't really feel that way when I was 17, 18, 19, because if I had, I very well would have done it, more than likely. But I married very young, had a kid very young, and I can't be away. My daughter's 21 now. She's gone to school for 6 months out of the year to college, and she doesn't want to hang out with her dad. So, I could probably sneak away and do a 4.5-month hike, and she may not even know I'm gone. But my son is 8, and he still likes daddies for now. That doesn't last forever. But, I couldn't leave him for that amount of time. But I've become really obsessed with this trail. So I devised a plan over the last year, and that is, I'm not tore up about being a thru hiker. To me, some people only put a value on thru hiking something, and some people only care if you're through, like it only counts them if you're a thru hiker. To me, getting to thru hike the Appalachian Trail is more about getting to reset myself and have that time with myself than it is about saying I did it all in one pass. So it's two different things. I want to hike the Appalachian Trail. It does not have to be a thru hike. I just want to hike it. So it's those are two different things. I put just as much value on hiking it in sections as I do in through hiking it, and some people don't feel that way. Now, don't get me wrong in saying that I would love to through hike the trail, obviously, but it's not what I could do right now, and I don't think it is the best thing for me to do initially. Like, I may be able to through hike the trail when I'm 55 and the opportunity arises. But over the last year, I've thought about what's really important to me. What's really important to me is getting to experience some of the Appalachian Trail and getting to just be on it and see, what it means to me once I'm able to be on it and do this and be on the trail. So my plan is to go this late spring into early summer, because Springer Mountain is cold, and a lot of people start Springer Mountain early spring or just before the spring so that they could get to Katahdin, summer, maybe a little bit into the fall, but preferably end of summer, first fall, because Katahdin is a high elevation, and it's windy and it's cold, and you don't want to be in the northern states, obviously, through the colder sections of the year. Now, there are some people called southbounders who will do it in reverse. I'm not looked into a whole lot of when they're starting the trail and things of that nature, because that doesn't it's just not on my interest right now to do anything as far as southbound. There are people called flip-floppers, and they go and hit the trail. Say they go north for a while, jump up north, come back south and hit that spot, then jump back up north somewhere and go north a little bit, and then jump around and go further north and come back south, and then go all the way back down maybe to Springer and go from Springer north and hit us, and they do it in that direction. That actually, if I were able to travel, would be a way I would be interested in doing the trail. But I really have two main interests in doing this trail. One is to eventually one day through hike it, or not even as much worried about through hiking it and doing the whole thing as having a long-term exposure and a long section of time on the trail, just for the ability to reset and relax and kind of be in nature for a long term. It wouldn't have to be the Appalachian Trail. I like doing that anyway. But the other thing is, I want to do the trail in sections, and I want to experience different sections and do it, see the difference in areas and stuff. Now, the way I would be able to do this would take me a while, and I'm okay with that. But my ideal is this spring, maybe late spring or early summer, to go down and do Springer Mountain to Neal's Gap. Springer Mountain is the official kickoff starting point that's the southern terminus of the Appalachian Trail. Neal's Gap is kind of like the first big area you come to on that. I have the exact mileage. Anybody that knows me, my memory is not the best. I have the exact mileage and elevation change from point to point. This is a short couple day, take my time and look, maybe 3 days. Other than that, maybe a 2.5 day hike. That's putting down some miles every day, probably 20 miles a day or so. But it's a quick section, but it's also the section where most people drop out that are going to drop out early, is at Neal's Gap. Not to say that there's necessarily a huge number of people that drop off the trail right there. It's just people that really have no idea what they're getting into. It usually just takes that first section for them to go, whoa, this is not what I want to do. It's also a place where a lot of people realize in that first section, wow, I packed way too much stuff. And there's a place there where you can mail stuff back to yourself, stuff that you didn't need, And also there's a hostel there when you come off the trail, and that's where I would be coming off the trail at and coming back. So, I want to get together one person at least, maybe two, that are willing to go down, say on a Thursday, drive to Georgia, get a shuttle out, and a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday hike hard and knock this out and get back. Because that's kind of where I'm able to go. And, I would also like to, at some point this summer, maybe go to the Smoky Mountains and hit a section there. A really good 1 day, day and a half overnight section. Just travel down, hike it, and get out. Same way with Damascus, because in Damascus, I like to go hike a good solid day, maybe day and a half, then come back out, do the coaster trail with the bikes, things like that. Because Damascus is a really nice town, and I can make something out of it to where my wife, who doesn't enjoy hiking as much as I do and does not camp at all, could, enjoy it with me. So that's very much, in the realm of possibilities. So if in a summer I could knock out the very first section, Springer Mountain to Neal's Gap, to me that's a big milestone for me to be able to knock that out. It's a good starting point. But also these two places I'm familiar with, and these two places I've been to and just did not have the opportunity to hike. When we were above Damascus up there, I said that's a 20-mile horseback ride. There's a certain way you do that, and timing and everything for the horse and for yourself, but mainly for the horse, and you don't want to be all night getting back, and it's, I had other people in the group with me, so I couldn't just wander off for 3, 4, 5 hours and hike and come back. So it wasn't the right thing to do, and it's not what I wanted. I didn't want to be rushed while I was on the trail. And then when I was in Gatlinburg and up there around Klingman's Dome and stuff, I was with my wife. We were there on an anniversary trip, and I wanted to spend time with her and do things as a couple and do things that we could both enjoy, but do kind of fun things that we never get to do because, we're never really alone. And so it just wasn't the most important thing to hike the trail. And like, there's people you can't see, they would go, you can't say that around because they would go, well, of course the most important thing is hike. No, it's not always. As much as I want to do this, it's not always the number one priority. The number one priority for that time was spending time with my wife. So it wasn't the right time to do it. But I'm very interested in both those sections because they're fairly close. I mean, they're a couple hours drive, almost 3 hours drive. But from where I'm at, it's the two closest sections of the trail that I know of. And there are two sections, beautiful. I mean, beautiful. Obviously, through the Smoky Mountains is a beautiful place, and everything that we looked at. We went to the high spot in Virginia on that trail ride with the horses and stuff, and that whole area just right around where we found the trail and up around the ponies and stuff. It was just beautiful. I mean, it was really, really beautiful, and so they're really nice, gorgeous places. So that's my plans for this summer. Send me a message at authorjperk, P-E-R-K, at gmail.com, or put something in the comments, and, have you been on the trail, or would you be interested in the trail? Anything of that nature, anything involving the trail, let's talk about it. Do you have a preferred hike in your area or in eastern Kentucky? Because you're probably going to get some hiking episodes from me. I really enjoy hiking, and I really enjoy being out and being in the mountains. So, that's going to be a topic for me. If everything works out and I'm able to do these trips this year, I'm going to try to podcast either right after will be the most likely, but if possible, record some on the trail while I'm on the trail, at least videos for the YouTube page or something like that. Again, check out the YouTube page, check out the Facebook page. I have Twitter, Instagram. I've heard from 2 people now that there's no possible way to get the word out without social media. So I'm back on social media, and I'm kind of doubling it up. I'm on social media. Here we go. I will say this, though, and it's only been a couple of days since I've been back on social media. I have done putting a lot of stuff on social media. My plays and downloads have not gone up that much. I don't know who's listening to this and who's hearing this, but you guys were really downloading and listening prior to that. So I'm very happy about what I was able to do without social media. Now let's see what I can do with it. But check out all those things. I don't even have the page names I'm selling, so I'll get all that for next time. what is this month? Is this January? It's January. It is January. January 30th. If that's a Thursday at 9:30 or 9 a.m. I should have looked this up. But again, I'm on the road to West Virginia today. I'm doing this safely with a headset, so I'm not being dangerous. But the Red Spotted Newt in Hazard, Kentucky, Red READ. Red Spotted Newt in Hazard, Kentucky is opening. The grand opening of the bookstore. My books are available. They're going to have some great things going on coming up. They've got a great selection of books. I went in the other day when she got the load in. Me and my wife went in, looked around, took her some of my books. There was another local artist dropping off some of his books, a local author. There's local art in there. This place is great. This place is doing something really good in a really nice town that's trying to recover from being in eastern Kentucky and lulls in the economy. And Hazard is making an effort, just like Whitesburg has, and it's really nice, and I really think the store is going to be a success. And if you're into local authors and you're into local art and you live in this area, that's the place to go. If you want my book and you live locally, go there. That's the place to go. Go buy them there. If you live way away from eastern Kentucky, go to Amazon. Cold Kingdom is available on Amazon. Everyone's Different Just Like Me is available on Amazon. The Boy with Super Hearing is available on Amazon. And going forward, the new book will be available on Amazon. But I'm going to do something special with the new book. You may forget about this by the time it comes out because I don't have a definite date on when it's going to be out. The reason being is I'm lazy and I haven't. It's finished, it's written, it needs touched up, it needs put together, it needs sent in, but the first couple weeks or however long that the book is done, I'm only going to have the book in the Red Spotted Newt. I'm not going to have it on Amazon for the first little bit. That will be the only way you can get it. I'm not mailing them out, I'm not sending them out, I'm not bringing them anywhere. If I do a book signing somewhere or at the Red Spotted Newt, that will be the only place you'll be able to get them for the first couple weeks that the book's out. I look for the book to be out before spring. If I can just get motivated and get time, that's when it will be out. So keep that in mind. Thanks everybody for listening, and we're probably going to touch back on the hiking subject pretty soon. But you guys have a great day, and don't forget to download, like, subscribe, and share anywhere you can.